What's up, legends? Welcome back to my Unmatched Strategy announcement series. No guide today, as we simply must unpack the Battle of Legends Volume 2 reveals made yesterday afternoon. There was a press conference, which I attended, where Restoration Games announced a couple of things Unmatched related, as well as news relating to other games, but I think we both know that's not why you're watching this video. Believe it or not, they do in fact make other games, and if you want to know more about Key to the Kingdom, Return to Dark Tower, or Thunder Road Vendetta, you can go elsewhere for those details, as Unmatched is my specific area of expertise. Anyways, I will not make you wait another second. Here is the box art. As you can see, Yennenga, the warrior princess from Burkina Faso, the only previous reveal, is matched up against Sun Wukong, the Monkey King trickster god from Chinese mythology, Achilles, the legendary Greek warrior, and Bloody Mary from the horror story / urban legend. This is a very interesting and diverse cast, and I'm really excited to see how all these heroes will play. I'm going to say I'm excited about everything, though, but it's true. It's been a long time since the hype train dropped off Little Red and Beowulf at my station, and I've been going slightly crazy with no new sets coming out, because usually a new one will drop like every 3 to 4 months, but it's been 7 at this point, although it's really no one's fault, so what are you going to do? Each hero had their card back, health dial, sidekick, and mini revealed, as well as some cards, so I'll give each one a mini breakdown and just briefly describe how good I think each card is, although without full deck lists and any actual playing. Take what I say with a grain of salt, because we do not have complete information at this point in time. Let's start with Yennenga. Damn, that card back is beautiful with a capital U. Right away, the thing that sticks out is her archer sidekicks. There's 2 of them, and they each have 2 health. Apparently, there has been a revolutionary technological development in the science behind multiple sidekicks, as now they can have more than 1 hit point. Crazy times we live in. I believe it was confirmed that one side says 2 and the other says 1, so you can flip them over to distinguish between the different health levels. This makes her sidekicks more powerful individually than normal 1 HP sidekicks at the cost of bodies on the board, since you only have 2. However, Yennenga herself has 15 hit points, which is a bit more than normal for multi-sidekick heroes, to make up for the fact that she'll be more exposed to enemy attacks than others typically are, because she can't surround herself as well as they can. Now, having 1 more HP doesn't really seem to make the archers that much better than normal sidekicks, but I suspect it's either subtly really powerful or won't matter at all. And I guess that's one of the things that we have to wait to actually play her in order to find out. Although at full health, they don't immediately die to 1 damage AoE effects, which could be huge. No clue what her ability is, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that the archer warrior princess with a bow and arrow is ranged, and her sidekicks, called archers, are also ranged.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
As for her cards, well, most of them have already been revealed, but the new one we got to see yesterday, Divide and Conquer, seems really cool. Divide and Conquer is an archer-only 2-value versatile that says, during combat, if your fighter is not in Yennenga's zone, the value of this card is 4 instead. This effect encourages you to split up your fighters and attack enemies from different parts of the board, and I think that could be a really cool play style compared to the Robin Hood mob mentality of never letting your opponent hit your hero. I think this will be a really good block card for the archers, because being able to block 4 damage is a really nice milestone, since most good attacks in this game deal 4 damage. Also, with the archer health mechanic fully revealed now, we see how One with the Land synergizes with them, as if they're at 1 health, you can heal them back up to 2. And although that doesn't seem super strong, it's nice nonetheless. And with all the potential revives you have with shield formation and surprise volley, I think the archers might be a bit of a nuisance. And with that being said, Yennenga is probably the hero I'm excited for most due to how cool her cards and team composition seem. But that also might just be because we have the most reveals for her, so we know the most about her, so I don't know, I'm not sure yet. The next hero is Sun Wukong, who in my opinion has the second best mini of the set, more on that later. I also love the face that appears on the card back, dials, and sidekicks, and I really hope this deck has regroup in it because that's the face I will make every time my opponent wastes a good block card on one. The Monkey King has 17 health, which means he has surpassed Medusa for most hero HP for a multi-sidekick hero, and I don't think this should be underestimated, as 17 hero HP is tied for second most in the game currently with Beowulf, and that potentially makes Sun Wukong very tanky. His sidekicks, I believe, are called clones, and it was mentioned during the press conference that his clones and his hero will use all the same cards, which makes thematic sense if you think about it, because his clones are just versions of him. So why would there be clone-specific cards and Sun Wukong-specific cards? Yeah, it makes sense. But this ability is actually sneaky good because it means that every fighter on his team will be equally powerful and threatening. This factor is something that makes the Jackalope really good because the shared card pool between it and Bigfoot is very large, which gives Jack a ton of options, which makes it one of the most useful sidekicks in the game because of all the cards it has access to. Now, having 3 sidekicks with the same firepower as your hero seems really strong to me. Again, no clue what his ability is, as they didn't reveal that, but I'm going to assume that Sun is melee because I don't see how a monkey, magical or not, would be ranged. The first of the 2 cards revealed for Sun Wukong is named Infinite Strikes, and you'll see why in a second. It's a 2-value attack that says during combat, for each other friendly fighter adjacent to the opposing fighter, increase the value of this card by 1. After combat, gain 1 action. So I'm pretty sure all the cards in this deck will be any's because of the clone mechanic I talked about earlier. So any of your fighters can use any of these cards, I think, and that's just something to point out with looking at these. The during combat effect reminds me of Feeding Frenzy from Dracula's deck, which is a pretty bad card, but this rewards you for completely surrounding your opponent with lots of your fighters, which is something that multi-sidekick heroes typically don't want to do. You'd rather surround your hero most of the time, but I think Sun Wukong has enough health that you don't really need to protect the hero as much. And setting up your clones this way also makes you really vulnerable to area of effect damage. The saving grace of this card is the action gain, which to me makes it a great bait card for your opponent to waste a good block card on before you hit them with something much better using the action that you just generated. I don't know, this card seems alright to me. Phoenix Form, however, seems a lot better. It's a scheme that says Sun Wukong recovers 1 health for each clone on the board. Potentially healing 3 HP from 1 card effect is really good. Even just 2 is also fine. And depending on the amount of sidekick revives you have in Sun's deck, if he's able to consistently heal for 3 whenever this card comes up, he's going to be a problem. Especially if his sidekick revive card is a scheme. You could play that first action and then play this second action, and I think that would be a really strong combo to guarantee the 3 heal every single time. However, there is only 1 copy of this in your deck, so part of its usefulness depends on when exactly you draw it, unfortunately. So after seeing Phoenix Form, I will officially double down on my Sun Wukong Tank King prediction. So somebody please remember I said this and give me credit in 4 months if he is, in fact, super durable. And if he's not, just forget I ever said this. The legendary Greek warrior Achilles is the next hero, and his sidekick presents me the same pronunciation problem that Wiglaf did, so we're just going to call him Pat. It makes him seem a lot less threatening, though. Like, I personally cannot imagine being defeated in battle by someone named Pat, and apparently neither can Hector. I'm assuming both of these fighters are melee, even though I guess you could throw a spear once. But 18 health is massive. It's currently tied with King Arthur for the most single hero HP. And Pat only has 6, which is now quite bad for sidekicks, considering that at the higher end they have 8 or even 9. And while mostly unclear, the developers hinted that Achilles has different abilities based on whether or not Pat is alive or dead, meaning sometimes you actually want Pat to die, in which case 6 HP, pretty easy for your opponent to knock out. That being said, they probably won't want to knock out Pat, depending on what the benefit is for Achilles, but you have a card called Battle Frenzy, which might just let you take matters into your own hands. Battle Frenzy is a pat attack. Ooh, pat attack. I like that. It's a value 3, and it says after combat, deal 2 damage to both fighters in the combat. Dealing 2 damage to the enemy is great. Dealing 2 damage to yourself is not so great, and based on how quickly it seems that Pat will die after playing this card, much less both copies, Achilles better get some heck of a buff when Pat eventually does croak. However, using health as a resource to remove enemy health, I think is a really great trade-off if you are ahead on life and thus like in a winning position for the game. It's like a win more card where you play it while you're ahead to get more ahead, and it probably won't be that useful if you're currently losing. Although I think playing this against an enemy hero still seems worth it to me, and we'll see just how worth it is when we find out Achilles' ability. The next card, the aptly named Achilles' Heel, also seems somewhat questionable to me. It's a 4 value block card for Achilles only, and it says after combat, if you lost the combat, your opponent gains 1 action. Blocking 4 damage is excellent. A lot of good attacks in this game are value 4s. But giving your opponent an action is pretty horrible. This card is all over the spectrum to me. Against enemies with consistent attacks that can be 5s or 6s, this card seems pretty much unplayable, but I think in other matchups it will be just fine. When this initially got revealed, it got universally dumped on in the Discord, and while I agree that it is a bad card, I actually think it will be less bad than people think it will be. Either that or way worse than even I think it could be, but like nowhere in between. It's either going to be mediocre at best or just trash. And I really want to see the card in action because I want to figure it out. And personally, I want to make it work. So this pair of cards are really hard to evaluate right now because we don't know the other 25 cards in Achilles' deck or his ability, and both of those factors will greatly influence how good these cards actually are. So I want to reserve my true judgment for this hero until his full deck is revealed. But right now, it's not looking too good. His health is the only thing that he has going for him. And the last hero is Bloody Mary, a cocktail containing vodka, tomato juice, and other spices and flavorings, including Worcester sauce, hot sauces, garlic, herbs, horseradish, celery, olives, salt, black pepper, lemon juice, lime juice, and celery salt. I regret absolutely nothing about that bit. So hot take, I think Mary has the best mini of the set, and I bet some people will violently disagree with me, probably the people that wanted to paint it. So we're just going to move on. Granted that she is inside a mirror, so she's probably going to be a melee fighter. I think we can agree on at least that, right? She's also a solo hero, the 4th in Unmatched history, so I bet Zero Skater will like her a lot since he tends to gravitate towards other loners. 16 health is really good for a solo hero, as 14, 15, and 16 are the current comparisons from Bruce Lee, Invisible Man, and Jekyll and Hyde, respectively. Her ability, of course only hinted at, seemed like one of the coolest abilities out of any Unmatched character so far. I think, if I recall correctly, Rob said that the rule of 3s prevails a lot in her deck, and that you'll get some sort of bonus if you start your turn with 3 cards in your hand. Now, that's me remembering something that someone said for like 5 seconds hours ago, so I could be wrong, so please correct me in the comments if you know better. Her cards have perhaps the most risque art for an Unmatched character, and I can imagine those playing with small children should keep Mary in the box, and for reference, I count as a small child. Her first card is Out of the Mirror, a 1 value attack, and it says during combat, your opponent discards 1 random card. Add its boost value to this card's value. After combat, if this is your 3rd action, draw 1 card. So this seems like an ambush, but it looks worse because it's only a value 1, but I actually think this card is a lot better. If you can proc the 3rd action requirement, which I don't know how she would generally, unless she has cards that give her more actions, or she plays against Achilles and beats him in combat when he uses Achilles heel. But either way, the goal of ambush is never to actually deal damage. That's just a nice side effect if it happens. The true goal is for your opponent to discard a card, because random discards are really good. This deals 1 less damage, but if you proc the after combat effect, you get to draw a card, meaning that there's a 2-card swing between them losing a card and you gaining one. So I think that is really, really good for maintaining card advantage. Although, based on what the ability seems to be with the 3 cards in hand rule, I don't know if you actually want card advantage, I guess, because you just want that specific number. We'll have to see as her ability gets fully revealed later. And the next card is Broken Glass, a 3-value versatile that says during combat, you may increase or decrease the value of this card by 1. After combat, if the value of this card matches your opponent's card, draw 1 card and the opposing fighter takes 2 damage. I truly believe this card is absolutely nuts. It's usable on offense or defense because it's versatile, but it has so much potential to me as a great attack, believe it or not. And that's because block cards are typically lower in value and more consistent than attacks. So you will get the effect off more consistently at the risk of being feinted, because feint is most often played on defense. So if you play this offensively, yeah, it could get canceled, but I think it lines up with the values on common block cards more, because it can be a 2, a 3, or a 4, which are the most common block values in the game. And yeah, 2 includes feint, but it also includes cards like Looking Glass, Wolf's Skin, and Scientific Method. So I think this can be very flexible as an attack for that reason. If you do match the value of your opponent's card, you don't deal any damage during the combat, but I think that's made up for by the fact that you deal 2 damage after combat with a perfect match, and you get a card. That's crazy good. Like, that's really, really good. If they play a 5-value block, you can live with that because there's like 2 of those in the whole game. And if they play a 1-value block card like a regroup, you just scale the card up to 4 and punish them. So I think this card, especially with 3 copies, is just insane. Jot that down as another prediction. I guarantee you this will be one of the best cards in Bloody Mary's deck. So let's keep a running tab on what I've predicted so far. Yennenga's whole team will be ranged. Sun Wukong will be super tanky. And Broken Glass will be OP. All right, noted. Glad we're on the same page. We're going to come back to this audio clip in like 3 months and see how accurate I was. And before I get completely lost in the sauce, I will admit that this card is pretty bad when an enemy card effect depends on winning the combat, because if you match the values, you won't win the combat and you'll guarantee the effect for them. But you can counter that, I guess, by just not matching for that combat, depending what the enemy effect is. And yeah, while that's pretty unideal, you're still denying them that effect, which I think is really only bad against 4-value cards with that, like Skirmish, because then you just won't deal any damage. And lastly, before we move on to other topics, let's crunch some numbers. Something that I think is insanely exciting to me as a math nerd is how different all the heroes are from a numbers perspective. They all have different hit point totals, a different number of sidekicks, and different sidekick health totals. So that leads me to believe that all the heroes in this set will be and play super differently, which is what I look forward to most, because I love how different and unique every hero can be, and these heroes seem very different. Unmatched is going digital, coming in December of this year to a wide variety of platforms. You can now play Unmatched on the toilet, which is where I intend to play from now on exclusively. Where do you think I'm recording this video from? With cross-platform play and a variety of game modes, including 1v1, 2v2, and solo against an automated opponent, you should be able to have a blast in a variety of ways. However, until I see the actual AI in practice, I just kind of doubt it will be that good. I don't know, maybe it'll play Spike in a way no one has thought of before and just wreck people. Except it can't play Spike, because while Restoration Games has teamed up with crumb, don't know if that's how you pronounce it, for this endeavor, Mondo's logo is nowhere to be found, meaning that the chance of getting licensed sets based off of intellectual properties into this format are slim to none, unfortunately. Another potential negative is that aside from the 6 fighters that will come with the game, the 4 from Battle of Legends Volume 1, Little Red, and Beowulf, The rest will be available via in-app purchases, and I have mixed feelings about this, and it's totally fine whichever way you lean, because this is just personal preference. I just feel kind of silly buying digital versions of heroes I already own in real life. But at the same time, I will gladly support Restoration Games because personally I believe they are a great company ran by great people. So to me, if the price per hero is reasonable or reasonable enough, I will succumb to compulsion and drain my wallet so that I can wreck noobs online from the comfort of my porcelain throne. And speaking of the Mondo side of Unmatched, the Marvel sets were not brought up at all during the press conference. They were originally promised to arrive this summer, but unfortunately, because of the production and shipping delays due to the worldwide pandemic, they will not be here for a bit, which, in the grand scheme of things, is perfectly acceptable and understandable. Let me repeat the whole worldwide pandemic part of the equation, just in case you forgot about that. It's really messing up everything that's happening in the board game industry, and I'm sure Restoration Games will do everything in their power to get those sets to us ASAP as possible, but it's completely reasonable that they are delayed. In other news, Deadpool is supposed to ship soon, which is great, so hopefully that pack gets to me before August, so I have time to crank out a strategy guide for all 30 of the cards in his deck. That video is literally going to be like 2.5 hours. It's going to be awful for me to record and probably worse for you guys to watch. I think the literal Deadpool movie will probably be shorter than that video. Oh, jeez. All right, that leads me to the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the previews and breakdowns and just general shenanigans that are always expected here. I love having fun while I'm making these videos, and the more relaxed news announcement videos are always a blast to make, in addition to just the massive rush of joy from just learning about new content. I'm excited for Yennenga, Bloody Mary, Achilles, and Sun Wukong, in that order from most to least, but I'm curious to know what you all, my awesome viewers, think about these heroes. Who is going to be your favorite? Who is going to be the best of the four? And who is going to single-handedly dismantle the big three? I would love to know your thoughts. I'll see you next in my Cobble and Fog set summary video. Those videos are always a nice way to just wrap up discussion of a specific set. And then I hope to do some sort of mini solo hero series by analyzing Bruce Lee and Deadpool if he does in fact ship soon and I can get some plays in with him. We'll see. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, like, subscribe, and yeet!